What's going on, ladies, gents, and kids of all ages? It is Eric coming back at you once again from the Nerd Cave, and today we have yet another aggro-ish type of deck coming at you, talking about some of the similar play strategies that we were talking about with the last deck, but this time we're going to be looking at Amethyst Steel, which I think is going to be a great color combination going into this meta, particularly if aggro ends up being as relevant to the meta as I think it will be. Daisy Duck has really changed the game. Steel does struggle a little bit with Daisy Duck, but you do have some other potential answers for her in this deck. I think it can definitely still hold its own into Daisy Duck. That being said, big shout out to the Patreons who make the giveaways on this channel possible. If you're interested in joining the Patreon, there's still time to jump over there. Join the Patreon by August 31st, and you'll be able to go ahead and get entered into the drawing for the Maleficent Dragon from Chapter 1. We're going to be giving away on September 1st. We did also drop the file for the Enchanted Be Prepared. If you haven't seen that already, there is an Enchanted Be Prepared file that you can download and print to your heart's content. Great proxy option. Pretty cool artwork if I do say so myself. Don't want to toot my own horn, but I love the way that card came together. But without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into today's deck, Amethyst Steel Hyper Aggro. So the first couple slots are going to look familiar to people who watched my video on Friday, but we are going to be running 4 Magic Broom, Illuminary Keeper, 1/2 Quest for 1. Whenever you play another character, you may banish this character to draw a card. Fantastic option from set 4 to go ahead and keep you hard on the card draw, especially into stuff where like discard, which is I think still relevant even without Bucky. Then another card keeping you in the card draw is going to be 4 Turnbox Followers. Opposite stat line, 2/1 for 1, both inkable. If I didn't mention that with the Magic Room, both options are inkable. Quest for 1, and whenever this character quests, you may banish them to draw cards. Some people would consider this potentially better than Magic Broom in the sense that it doesn't require another card to activate its ability. It can do it on its own as long as it's able to quest. However, Magic Broom can activate same turn when that's relevant, so there's give and take with both cards. I think they're both really great options to get you some sneaky card draw. And this deck isn't quite as heavy on the 1-drops as the deck we talked about on Friday, but it does have one more 1-drop. We are running 4 Robin Hood Beloved Outlaw, 1 cost, 2/2 Quest for 1. He is here, as you may imagine, as a shift line for our big Robin Hood, which we'll talk more about later. Then absolute necessity in the 2-drop slot, in my opinion, for anything with steel is going to be Mr. Smee. I think he's good in every steel deck. I can't stress enough, I'm happy I got foils these when he was 20 cents. He wasn't really on anybody's radar, but he is a 3/3 for 2 inkable. Crazy. Quest for 2. If this character is exerted and you don't have a captain in play, you're going to have to go ahead and put that 1 damage on him, which can stink in some instances, but we do have some bounce stuff in this deck, so potentially you can save him before he goes out when you need to. And a 3/3 stat line for 2 is gross. Nobody wants to attack into that. Next up in the 2-drop slot, we are playing 3 Yen Sid. 2 cost, 1/3. When you play this character, if you have a character named Magic Broom in play, you may draw a card, and while you have 2 or more Broom characters in play, this character gets +2 to their lore. Pretty interesting card option. Can definitely look at doing something with him like getting Magic Broom down turn 1, playing Yen Sid turn 2, pop in the Magic Broom if you don't have a 3rd Magic Broom to get into play on turn 3, and drawing 2 cards on the 2nd turn of the game, which is great just to really keep your foot on the gas. Alternatively, if you do have a 2nd Magic Broom to get into play on turn 3, you can go turn 2 Yen Sid, draw your 1 card for having that 1st Magic Broom out, turn 3 play a 2nd Magic Broom, and then you're getting that quest in for 3, which is fantastic. And you may even have another low cost character you can play to still pop that Magic Broom and get you that card draw off of it. Then we are running 1 more Magic Broom in this deck just to help with some consistency on Yen Sid and to bring some things back when it is relevant to us. But we are playing the Chapter 1 Magic Broom, a card that's kind of fallen out of favor but is still seeing some play alongside Yen Sid. It is a 2 cost, 2/2 Quest for 1, and when you play this character you may shuffle any card from your discard back into your deck. So if you have a card you only have a few of, or a card you just want to try to get back, this can be a great way to do it. This deck is generally drawing a lot of cards, so even though you're putting it back in your deck, it's entirely possible that you could draw it again, and it helps Yen Sid get to that 3 quest. And one of the new cards I've been pretty hype on, I haven't been seeing this in a ton of lists, but I think this card is really good, is Doc Bold Knight. He's a 2 cost uninkable 1/3, and he does only quest for 1, which isn't as aggressive in kind of a more aggro-y type of deck. But when you play this character, you may discard your hand to draw 2 cards. It's not something you have to do if you want to get him on the board without doing it. It is an option. But if you are If you are inked out, you played all your low-cost characters, of which this deck runs a lot, and you are running out of cards in your hand, or the last card or two in your hand are things that aren't going to be useful in the current situation, go ahead, slap that dock down, discard them, draw 2 new cards, and maybe get something else to keep your foot on the gas. He is situational, which is why I'm not playing more than 2. If you were focused on like a night deck, I think he's definitely a 4 of, because he's really good. Next card we're going to talk about is Madam Mim Fox. Fantastic in every Amethyst list. I think it's pretty much always a 4 of, in my opinion. Nothing's really come to the game that's replaced it or made it fall out of favor, but Madam Mim Fox is a 3-cost inkable 4/3 quest for 1. When you play this character, banish her or return another chosen character of yours to your hand, and she has Rush. This is our Daisy Duck answer. Madam Mim Fox is the solution to Daisy Duck going into turn 3. You pretty much need to get her out. You can also potentially bounce a dock with her and then get that draw 2 again, which I think is pretty good. Another potential bounce option when you need to do it, if you're playing against an item heavy deck, we do have Benja, Guardian of the Dragon Gem, 3 cost, 2/3. He's in here because he is an aggressive quest requesting for 2, and when you play this character you may banish chosen items, so he's going to be a great way mainly to deal with Fishbone Quills to prevent the ramping in the early game so that you can get across the line before it's really a problem, some of their big threats against Sapphire, or alternatively if you're already pushing into the late game to deal with those Lucky Dimes to prevent them from questing up to 20 in like 2 turns. Lucky Dime is such a gross card with Tamatoa. Then we do have 2 Peats, 3 cost, 3/3, games referee, 1 lore. But when you play this character, opponents can't play actions until the start of your next turn, which is crazy. You can basically go, oh, you were going to be prepared next turn? Nope, can't do it. And now all my guys are protected if you don't have a field that's going to be dealing with them. Or, you know, you're going into that turn where they're going to play Grab Your Swords. They've developed an Aerial. He's the same cost as Aerial, so you can come down and say, your Aerial's not singing next turn. Sorry, not sorry. So, Pete, Games Referee, fantastic option. And the fact that he has a 3/3 stat line keeps him out of the range of things like Grab Your Swords, even when they are able to get it off. Then one of our best removal options in an aggro type deck where we do have a lot of low cost characters, Strength of a Raging Fire. We are running 3 of these. It is a 3 cost inkable action. It is a song, so it can be sung up by any of those characters we talked about just now, those 3 drop characters. And it's going to deal damage equal to the number of characters you have in play to target character, so it's going to be able to out a lot of things. If you're going real aggressive to the board with several characters right away and you're worried about something like Maui, you could potentially take out a Maui with this with 5 characters on the board, and then the following turn you can play that Pete and prevent them from being prepared. Another instance where we have cut to 3 of these instead of 4 because there is just so much good new draw options. I still think this card is super playable. It should maybe still be a 4 of, but we had a lot of cards in this deck. I think this ended up being a 63 card list. Is Friends on the other side, draw 2 cards, action song, cost 3, and it's inkable. So again, you're going to be able to sing this with all those neat characters that we just talked about and get yourself some card draw. And our last 3 cost song for those guys to sing is going to be Let the Storm Rage On. The thing that's great about this card, even though it is a 3 cost uninkable, it is a song, so you can go ahead and sing it, and it's going to deal 2 damage, which isn't going to out everything, but it's going to out certain things, but it's going to let you also draw a card. So again, just another way to keep your foot on the gas with that card draw and really come in aggressive. Then for those Chernobygs and Magic Brooms and really anything you can get onto here, we are running 4 libraries. It is a 1/8 stat line, so it has an even better stat line than Queen's Castle. It's coming down a turn sooner on turn 3 as opposed to turn 4, and any character that's here, when they're banished, you're going to go ahead and draw a card, so it's not going to be triggering every single turn like Queen's Castle is, and it's not going to be netting you 2 lore. It's only going to be netting you 1. But when things are getting banished, you're going to be able to draw a card. As I mentioned, you do have control over when Chernobygs and Magic Brooms are getting banished, so you can go ahead and move them in, banish them right away. You are in control. You're in the driver's seat for that. You don't have to rely on your opponent to banish them, so it's going to be a great way to draw a bunch of cards and get some quests in. Next up, unlike the more hyper aggro build, we are on a little more mid-rangey aggro build here. We are running 4 Merlin Rabbits. Still a card I think is fantastic. It is a 4 cost uninkable 2/3 quest for 1. When you play this character and when he leaves play, you may go ahead and draw a card. Being able to draw 2 is great. Obviously, if you are able to get him inside of something like the library, you're going to be drawing 2 when he leaves, 1 when he comes in. So drawing 3 off this can be gross, and you may even get a quest in. Then we're down to a 3 of on this one just because we are so heavy on the card draw. and 3 felt like enough, is going to be Merlin Goat. He is a 4/3 for 4, inkable, quest for 1. When he enters play and when he leaves play, he's going to be going ahead and netting you a lore. So as I mentioned in my last video, you get him down when you're at 16, 17, 18 lore. He's gonna almost definitely close out the game for you. Even if your opponent's removing him right away, he's netting you 2. Even if you're at 16, that's pushing you up to 18. Then every single thing you're dropping on the board is gonna feel like a major threat to close the game. Next up, we talked about the shift target for Robin Hood earlier. So obviously we are playing for Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood, 5 cost, inkable, 3/6. The stat line does struggle a little bit with Medusa. I think Medusa may start to fall out of favor since so many people are playing around her with 4 cost characters, and frankly you don't want to be playing a Medusa to remove something like a Daisy Duck. That's never going to feel good. But 3/6 stat line, quest for 2. During your turn, whenever this character banishes another character in a challenge, you're going to gain 2 lore, so you can potentially be banishing stuff with him as opposed to questing, still getting that 2 lore, which is great. And when he's banished in a challenge, you're going to draw a card and he's going to replace himself. Even moreover, he is shift 3 for that small Robin target, so you're looking at a card that can potentially shift down, turn 3, and sing Whole New World if that's your most relevant play line. Next card in the deck is going to be Chien Po, 5 cost, inkable, 4/7 stat line, quest for 1, and he does have bodyguard, so he's going to come down turn 5, survive through pretty much everything except for Hercules. He's going to trade with Hercules, which is good at least, so if they are attacking him with that Hercules, they're going to get a trade. That being said, I don't think everyone is on the Hercules playline with Ruby except for Ruby Sapphire, and even some of those decks are running him and some aren't. He is uninkable, so only certain people are playing him. But outside of that Hercules, they're going to have a very hard time dealing with Chien Po. They would potentially have to attack in with something like Hiram and Maui. And a lot of other decks are going to struggle with him. He does kill foxes, so they'd have to attack with 2 foxes or a fox and a snake. Going into aggro, obviously aggro's it's gonna be pretty much impossible for aggro to get through him. So 4/7 bodyguard, so he's gonna be a great option to get down and potentially survive a turn to be able to sing Whole New World. Another option for songs to sing when you are in that hyper aggro matchup, we do have 2 Grab Your Swords, 5 cost, uninkable. You're going to be able to sing it with any character that costs 5 as it is a song, and it's going to go ahead and deal 2 damage to all of your opponent's characters. So it's not great into something like Daisy Duck. It's not great into honestly many cards in the meta. That's why we only are on a 2 of in this deck. But in those super hyper aggro matchups where they're playing stuff like Lilo, Maleficent, or even just some of those 1-drop 2/2 characters, or even 2-cost characters like Morph, there are things that Grab Your Swords can deal with. Other things maybe not so much, but like I said, you can sing it, so you're effectively doing it for free and putting 2 damage on everything. That can always be nice. Then the last card in the deck, you heard us talk about it a little bit previously, but we are on 3 Whole New World, 5 cost, uninkable song. This is going to be able to be sung by those Chien Pos and those Robin Hoods, or in some instances you may be looking at just hard casting it to get your foot back on the gas, but each player discards their hand and draws 7 cards. We are only running 3 of these in the deck, as we are running Magic Broom where we can cycle them back into the deck. Also, we're only playing 6 5-drop characters, so we don't want to be on 4 Whole New Worlds that we're not able to sing all the time. You also never really want to end up with more than 1 Whole New World in your hand unless you're playing green with that new combination where you can put some cards from your hand back on top of your deck. Then you could put a Whole New World back, Whole New World into a Whole New World, which I think is kind of an interesting play line. But Whole New World I think is still really good. It's a great way to upset what your opponent is trying to do if they have a plan for what's going on with the cards in their hand, which a lot of times most people do. They're gonna have certain thoughts about what they're doing next. When you Whole New World them and give them 7 new cards, sometimes that can be a good thing for them, but sometimes they end up having to totally change their strategy. It throws off their entire play line, and the next thing you knew, you're in the driver's seat. And the next thing you know, you're in the driver's seat and just absolutely taking them to the cleaners. So that is my current Amethyst Steel list. I think it's a lot of fun. I'm enjoying playtesting it. I'm excited about playing it at League. As of the dropping of this video, I will have played it at League yesterday. So right now, I don't know how it went, but I'll drop in the description below how it went if you're curious about how it panned out for me and whether I won or lost, or won some games, lost some games. I'll try to give a little detailed description of how it went in the description below, so definitely check that out if you're curious. As always, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and when you see those toys, video games, and sweet new locations like the library off in the distance, remember, it is not a mirage. You guys have a great day.